Hello YouTube. One of the things I want to make perfectly clear here on this channel is I am not here to try to convince you that my views on witchcraft and the occult are correct and that I am the last word on how you should view witchcraft and the occult. I'm not here for that. I am not here to convince you. I'm not here to try to convert you into my religion or my religious views. What I am here for is a service to the community that's taught me. And by the community, I mean the magical community, the occult community. This is just my way of giving back to that community. So I'm not here to try to convert anyone. I'm not here to try to argue a point. I'm basically here just to give information and give back to the community that's taught me so much. So that is why I have the website. That is why I have this YouTube channel and the other channels that I have. That's why I have the MySpace account. That's why I have the Facebook account. It's just my way of giving back to the community. Also, when I ran Full Moon Circle on the campus of Wayne State University, that also was my way of giving back to the community. As I said many times before, Full Moon Circle was very unique in a lot of ways, and one of the reasons why it was unique is because we cast circles and we did magic every single week that we were on the campus of Wayne State University, unless there was a holiday or finals or something like that. And that's kind of hard to find within the magical community as a whole. There's covens that don't meet. I don't think there's I don't know personally of any coven that meets every single week and performs magic. I mean, there may be, but I don't personally know of any. So the fact that we were doing that every week, I think, was very powerful, and I am, so grateful that I had an opportunity to do that with those of you who have attended Full Moon Circle in the past when we were at Wayne State University. So when I was at Wayne State, that was my way of giving back to the community. Now that Full Moon Circle is more of a private thing, my way of giving back to the community is to give informational videos like this, to have my website up, to talk to people on Facebook. That's my way of giving back to the community. Also, the tarot card readings that I give people is my way of giving back to the community. And the music that I create, the guitar lessons that I give, that's also my way of giving back to the community. So that's why I have the channel, that's why I have the website, and that's why I am here to give back to you guys. Alright, now with that being said, what is the purpose of this video? And the purpose of this video is to talk about the suspension of belief. So what is the suspension of belief? Well, when you first start off in witchcraft and the occult, and this isn't necessarily just for beginners, but even people who have been in the craft or the occult for a while, at some point you're going to ask, how does this work? Why does magic work? Why do certain things happen when I do this as opposed to that, or whatever? And if you let your rational mind take over too much, then I feel that you'll sabotage whatever magic that you're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to be pragmatic. I think being pragmatic is very important within the craft and very important within the occult in general. Whenever something happens, a teacup falls off, from a shelf or something like that, you shouldn't necessarily always say, well, that was a ghost. Or some random thing happens in your life and you say, well, that was because a spell I did a couple of months ago or whatever. You should always be pragmatic, and you should always look critically at things, but that doesn't mean that you should be totally pragmatic, or it doesn't mean that you should be so critical that you sabotage yourself in believing these things or questioning things. So how do you overcome this? I can only tell you what I do. And what I do is what's called the suspension of belief. And when I cast a circle and when I do my rituals, I totally 100% believe in the things that I'm calling on. I totally 100% believe in the gods, the goddess, the elements, the fact that magic works, the fact that I'm drawing in and releasing power. I'm shutting off that rational part of my brain, the more logical part, and I am focusing on the right side of the brain, the brain that communicates in symbols and that communicates in dreams and through meditation. That is what I am concentrating on when I do my magic. Now, out of the ritual chamber, when I'm done with the ritual, I look back on what I've done and I say, well, yes, some of this is subjective, do the gods truly exist? Which I believe they do exist, but from a pragmatic point of view, you have to question things. Does magic, truly exist, and how does this work? And we have our ideas. Crowley believes that it is your will that you're putting out into the universe, and I think for the most part his idea on magic and how it works, for me personally, is the best explanation of all. But the rational mind is always going to question things. It's always going to say, well, why does it work? And if you did do a ritual to get this new car, was it truly the ritual that did this, or was it the fact that you went, hunting for this new car or whatever? So the rational mind outside the ritual chamber is always going to question things. It's always going to say, well, what about this, or what about that? And that's okay outside the ritual chamber. But for me personally, when I'm performing a feat of magic, when I'm in the ritual chamber, then I shut all of that out. I shut all of the rational part out, and I concentrate on the magic. So, for those skeptics out there, for those who don't believe in the gods and the goddesses, or who don't believe that magic works or whatever, all I can say is try it yourself. If you don't believe in spirits, per se, why not get a Ouija board or get some type of device and see if you can actually call on spirits and see if they'll come. If nothing happens, if you try to invoke a spirit, or if you try to perform some bit of magic and nothing happens, then you have no reason to believe something like this is real. And as I said before, earlier in this video, if you don't believe something is true, don't believe it. If you tried it, if you tried doing a spell, or if you're trying to communicate with spirits and nothing happens, you have no reason to believe this. It's all about me not trying to convince you or convert you in my way of thinking. I'm just basically giving you guys information and let you know how things work for me. So if you say that, well, magic isn't real, Ouija boards don't work, and this and that and other, then more power to you. All I say is try it. Try it and see if it really truly works. And try the suspension of belief, because I was at that point at during my magical practice when I first started off. Does magic work? Are the gods real? Blah 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 blah. And at some point, you will see results that would totally surprise you. And when that type of thing happens, you have to either say that there's something to this, or that it's just a bunch of nonsense. So how do I come about believing that there's something to this? Well, I remember one time, it was during the 80s, and it was during the time when people were really into quartz crystals. And I remember falling asleep, and I had this big gigantic crystal on. and there was a thunderstorm. And I believe I told this story here on YouTube a couple of times, but I remember being asleep, and every time the lightning would flash, something would happen within the crystal. It would like generate some type of energy or something, and it actually woke me up. And I was like, what in the hell is happening? But the lightning would strike and something would happen within the crystal, and I could feel like a charge or something like that. And from that moment on, I knew that there was some type of magical quality within crystals. I'm no scientist or anything like that. I cannot give you a scientific explanation. Maybe there is a scientific explanation, but all I can say is every time the lightning would strike, I could feel a surge of energy go through my body from that crystal. Also, another thing that convinced me that all the magic and the rituals and things of that nature is real is the dead start entering into my dreams. And when the dead start entering into your dreams, you know your dreams have a different feel to them. Things are much more vivid. You remember the dreams a lot more, and the dead usually have some type of message to give you. So I started getting dreams like that happen. Especially it would happen after rituals. So that was something else that convinced me that all this magic stuff, all the witchcraft and the rituals, there's something to it. Another thing that convinced me is when I would do the lesser banishing rite of the pentagram. I always felt like after I did that ritual, it was like taking a cleansing bath or something, because you're banishing things away. And I would notice that even when I wasn't thinking about the ritual that I've done, I could sort of like feel that there was something different within the room. And little things like that sort of over a certain period of time convinced me that there is something to this. Also, now this isn't something that I have a talent for doing, but a close friend of mine has a talent for doing this, and that is knowing when the telephone rings. Being so psychically sensitive, my friend basically told me he can always tell when I'm about to call him. He can always tell when the phone rings. That's Merlin on the other end of the telephone. Or things like he can always tell when I'm about to come over and visit him. He has the ability to put things out there. Merlin, give me a telephone call. Or Merlin, contact me. And he said that whenever he does this, I end up contacting him. So little things like that. Things that's happened that I see happen within my friends, and things that happen to myself are things that convince me that there is something to this. There is something to magic. But how did I arrive at all this? And I would say the suspension of belief. You have to get to a point where when you're doing your magic, you have to shut off that rational part of yourself and just concentrate on what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then afterwards, look and see what the results are. And you would be surprised. I think within most people, they'll be surprised at the things that they're able to achieve by doing magic. And I think most people do have magical qualities about themselves. Everyone's gifted in something magically, and in life in general. So try it, and don't be so critical that it sabotages what you're trying to achieve. So the suspension of belief. When you're in the ritual chamber or when you're doing magic, concentrate just on that. And then when you're done, look back on it and be critical. Then say, did this magic really happen? Did the results happen the way I wanted it to happen? Was it truly magic, or was it something else? So all I say to all the skeptics and all the critics out there who don't believe that magic exists, try it. At least try it once. I would say try it more than once. Treat it like a scientific experiment. Just don't give up the first time. And after you do this, if nothing happens and if magic doesn't work for you, then you have no reason to, truly believe that magic works. But for the rest of us, who have tried magic and have done magic throughout our lives, we think there is something to this, and that is why I believe that magic is real, and that is why you guys see me here making YouTube videos, and I have the website, and that's the reason why I ran Full Moon Circle on the campus of Wayne State University for so many years. So, as I said before, I'm not here trying to convince anyone that my views are the correct way, or I'm not trying to convert anyone. Just try it. If you're a critic, try it and see what happens. Or if you don't want to try it and you think I'm crazy or whatever, that's cool too. Alright, so anyway, that's my way of giving back to the community. And until next time, love is the law, and in peace as usual.